best medicine you can give your body is regulating your nervous system. Every time you do it, the energy that's going to survival goes back to its rightful place. And this highly intelligent system that knows how to heal itself begins to. I had ulcers all over my intestines. I had IBS, I had Crohn's disease, colitis, fibromyalgia, undiagnosed autoimmune diseases. I would have rashes all over my body. I was sick every few weeks of my life, just chronic all of the time. I don't suffer from any of those things anymore because I learned to regulate my nervous system. So this is medicine. This is not just for our emotional landscape. It is the most important medicine you can give yourself, truly.
Welcome to the Heal with Kelly podcast. I'm Kelly Noonan-Goris, and every week I speak to the leading doctors, healers, spiritual teachers, and scientists to find out what is truly possible when it comes to healing. I also interview real people with extraordinary healing stories. My philosophy is, what's possible for one is possible for all. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful journey of remembering our divine nature and tapping into the truths that shall set us free. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Heal with Kelly podcast. I am your host, Kelly Goris, and I am back with my beautiful guest, Sarah Baldwin. Sarah came in a week ago?
Yeah, I think it was a week ago.
And we had this conversation that could have gone on for days. So important. One of my favorite conversations. Sarah is so good at articulating what she does and what she shares. And I learned so much. And immediately after we ended, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to talk about this, this, and this. So here she is, back 1 week later for part 2. For those of you who have not yet listened to the first part, although I think you should stop it right now and go listen to the first part first, I'm just going to share a little bit about Sarah. Sarah Baldwin is a somatic experiencing practitioner and expert in the field of trauma resolution. She's a member of the world-renowned polyvagal theory training team and has trained clinicians around the world in nervous system interventions. Through the use of holistic somatic trauma healing, she helps people get unstuck and step into the lives they desire. She incorporates nervous system regulation, attachment work, and parts and inner child work into her courses and programs, which serve thousands of people from all over the world. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I know. I feel like we could have talked for 5 hours, so this is a good roundup to that, hopefully.
Exactly. And maybe we'll do part 3. Who knows? So to dive right in, kind of where we left off, we talked about so much. We talked about the 6 states of the nervous system. And
yes.
There was 3 regulation and 3 dysregulation. And we touched on the dysregulation. We never, because we were diving so deep, we didn't get to the regulation. So I just wanted to round out that conversation and talk about the 3 states of nervous system regulation.
Yeah.
Or regulated nervous system.
And just a quick recap in case anyone hasn't listened, or, I've heard this stuff that I've said thousands of times and never gets old. So at any point, any moment in time, we are always experiencing one of 6 states in our nervous systems. And I think of a state as a whole world because it's an entire lived experience. Each of these 6 states creates the sensations we have in our body, our feelings, the thoughts we have. It creates our behaviors, so the things we do or inhibit, and our perception of ourselves, others, in the world around us. So it's literally creating everything. And it boggles my mind that we as children learn so many things in our lives, but nobody taught us that, hey, you're experiencing one of these 6 states, and it's actually creating everything for you. And if you're not in control of it, then that means it's going to take you over on cruise control and essentially guide your life, which is kind of mind-boggling to me that it's not public knowledge yet. Hopefully this helps to begin making it that way, and that's part of the mission that I have. So I say this a lot, but the thing that everybody wants in their lives, and then maybe they don't realize it, usually they don't realize it, is regulation in their nervous system. Because when we're regulated, that means the sensations in our bodies are going to be sensations we want. The feelings we have are going to be feelings we want. The thoughts we have are going to be peaceful and wonderful and actually present to the moment we're in. We're going to have a good perception of ourselves. We're going to see the world as a safe, beautiful place, and we're going to see others with curiosity and with love and connectivity and belonging. So it's the thing we all want. There are 3 states of regulation. The first is called our ventral vagal complex, and that's the primary state of regulation. And this is a part of the vagus nerve, the parasympathetic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system has 2 branches, parasympathetic and sympathetic. So one part of the parasympathetic is this ventral vagal complex, and it extends from the 10th cranial nerve, comes up to lots of nerve endings that come around our head, face, and inner ear. When we're in regulation, That is because our threat detector, which lives in our brainstem, has decided that whatever we're experiencing is safe. And it looks to this internal database we talked about last episode. And if everything in that database, based on what's in there, is being reflected in front of us as safe, then the threat detector says this is safe. It calls in this ventral vagal complex. And this is where we experience things like wonder, curiosity, joy, presence, aliveness, peace, homeostasis in our mind and bodies. I think of it like the porridge isn't too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. We have just the right amount of energy level for the task at hand that's in front of us. We approach everything that we're experiencing, including my partner not, asking me that thing I really hoped he was going to ask me, from not self-protection, but just curiosity and wonder, I wonder if there's something going on currently with him, or maybe he's struggling with something, or maybe he just forgot because he's human, and it doesn't put me in dysregulation. This is where, when we're here, our prefrontal cortex, or our thinking brain, is fully online. So if we want to have full creative expression, full aliveness, full possibility to problem solve, it happens here. And this is why when people are dysregulated and you try to read something, like if you ever try to read an email while you're anxious, yes, you can't process it and you read it again, or you're reading something from a lawyer or something from, a book, even just a book that you're enjoying. And you're like, what the hell did I just read in these last 3 pages? And then you revisit it and you're like, I'm still not quite sure what I read, because our thinking brain isn't working. But when we actually have that online, we're able to absorb things, we're able to have incredible critical thinking, and also think outside of the box. And I also just want to name that regulating our nervous system is a spiritual act, because when we're in our ventral vagal complex, that's what opens us up to have the experience of interconnectivity. So I say this a lot, the work that I do, I really think it's very scientific in nature, but I think it's really holy work. Because when you're dysregulated, it cuts you off from being able to experience God, divine, universe, wonder. And then a lot of people from religions have been made to feel like they're not meditating hard enough. They're not praying hard enough. They're not spiritual enough. And that's why they're not able to, feel this connectivity. The truth is, they're not regulated enough. And when we're actually regulated, you experience the universe in you, and you experience the universe in all things. And I know that I am the ocean, and I am the tree, and I'm you, and I get to experience that in my day-to-day life. It's a profoundly spiritual experience to be in regulation. And it's the thing that we're really all desiring.
I feel like this is why I had you back, because just the way you speak, and you're embodied, obviously very trained in regulating yourself, so you embody regulation, in this ventral vagal complex. So I'm in training, and I'm just wow, I'm ventral vagal right now. It's feeling really good.
Yeah, well, we have mirror neurons. Yeah. So everyone's nervous system is affecting everyone, which is why we live in LA, and you're in traffic and somebody's flicking you off, and you're like, why are you so angry? And then all of a sudden it makes me a little stressed, because I'm feeding off of their nervous system. And so I really think if we talk about people think a lot of times, I'm not reading enough news, or I'm not doing enough activism. The highest form of activism you can do is have a regulated nervous system. The best thing any parent can do, I work with a lot of parents, is regulate your nervous system. Because we become think of it like this sequoia tree, this beautiful anchored, rooted tree, that if you're a leader, the people that you lead can come to you, and they know fires can happen, things can happen, like a tree experiences storms, but the sequoia tree is just steady in there. Again and again, it's steady in there. And for our children, if we can be that, and not be perfect, because you can't be regulated all the time, but be that, it is truly the best gift for them and their nervous systems, and anybody that leads in the world. And then the other thing I just want to say is, when we're aligned with what you just said about me, being in regulation allows our soul, whatever we call that mystery thing, to come alive, and for us to be used by the universe, or whatever, if that word is not God, universe isn't resonant energy. We have our own unique gifts, and when we're regulated, it just comes through us, and we get out of the way, and that's the flowing down the river of life. But it's also just this incredible thing that occurs when we're open enough to let it come through us.
Yes. Well, we're going to find out how to get into this, activate the ventral vagal complex. So what are the second and third?
Yeah. So the two other states are blended states. They're primarily your ventral vagal complex, but they have nuance to them, because our goal is that we can experience regulation and do most things in life from regulation. So one of them is called stillness. Stillness is when you're predominantly anchored in your ventral vagal complex, but you have, I think of it like a splash or like a half a cup or a cup of your dorsal vagal complex. Now, we talked about in the last episode, dorsal vagal complex is dysregulation. That's active self-protection. It's like a bear in hibernation. If you take just a little bit of that, but you're predominantly in ventral, it's what allows us to be, and I'm going to go into this state, it's what allows us to be in regulation, but come into a beautiful slowing. So it's like, like when you watch your kids sleep like that, you don't even want to make a noise. You're just so connected to the peace they're experiencing. Or if I'm watching like a beautiful sunrise or a hummingbird, or if I'm writing or praying or meditating, there's just this incredible slowing that occurs. Or you're making love to your partner and you're deeply connected to them, if you're able to connect in that kind of intimacy, or gazing into someone's eyes. Like, what a high level of intimacy that is, which is something a lot of people can't tolerate. Mm-hmm. Or even like a hug, when people like tap on you and hug, it's not connecting. Versus like,
sorry, I'm laughing because I have some weird thing with hugging. Like my best friend, since 9 years old, like I had to like teach her how to hug because she was just like so uncomfortable hugging. And then my ex, husband, soon to be ex, he's like the most generous, loving guy. And then when he hugs, he's just like tap, tap, tap.
Yes.
Is that a hug? And I like pull him in. So it's funny.
Yeah, because the thing is, most of us, even with loving parents, they didn't know how to do like ultimate intimacy, because no one taught them how to do ultimate intimacy. And ultimate intimacy requires total exposure. And we have parts of us that weren't safe to be exposed at some point in our life. So it's the riskiest thing to let ourselves be known. And it's the thing that every human wants more than anything. So I've worked with couples that have been together 30 years. And I'm like, okay, so what I want you to do is hold each other's hands for 5 minutes and just feel the caress. And I want you to see if you can look at each other while you do it. And they're like, oh, that exercise, I've seen this person naked for 30 years. Do you think that's going to be hard for me? It's really different to actually slow into intimacy, like a hug. If you connecting from all the way up from heart to your root and just breathing together, you're feeling each other on a profoundly deep level. That's deep attunement. For a lot of, and this is the thing, goodness doesn't feel good at first because it has an energetic quality or charge to it. We actually have to build our capacity to hold that. In stillness, if we're wanting more connectivity to ourselves, to the universe, to others, we have to build our capacity to be in stillness.
Which is why it's called a practice.
And that's why it's called a practice. And so it's a beautiful state. Just think about this. It would be very weird. I'm going to go back into regular ventral. So it would be really weird if you were watching your child sleep and you were like, you're such a cute sleeper. And they're like, why are you doing that? I was sleeping. You're like, the butterfly. And it just like flies away. Sorry, I'm yelling at you, but you get what I mean, right?
Yes.
It wouldn't be the right choice. So we have stillness as a possibility that we can resource. And we want to engage stillness at least 2 hours before our sleep. The more that you do that, the more your body is going to be able to get into deep sleep. So engaging that at the end of the day, maybe we could talk about sleep practices.
Yes.
But that's really important. And then we have this last state called play. And play is primarily anchored in your ventral vagal complex with a splash of your sympathetic nervous system. So that's a state of dysregulation, often referred to as fight or flight. We talked about last episode, but go, racing thoughts, anxiety, worry, frustration, fear. You're just going. If you take a small amount of that and you put it into your state of regulation, it's what allows you to go do karaoke and not be like, now I'm going to do karaoke from stillness, which would be kind of weird to do that from stillness. Like, I'm about to sing Madonna. Like, probably not the best state for that. So it allows us to be playful, silly, to dance, to laugh, like playing games with friends, to be silly with our kids. And here's the thing about each of these states. if you're predominantly a sympathetic dominant person, got a lot of anxiety and energy in your body, dysregulation, when you engage in play, you might notice that you dip sometimes into your sympathetic nervous system. And we see kids do this all the time. Do you remember when we were kids, we played like the lava game?
Oh, yeah.
Did you play?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. How did we all play this game without the internet?
Yeah.
I don't, this is like a really offshoot thing. If anyone knows how this is quantumly happening, that everybody before communication was playing the same damn lava game. Anyway, you're jumping around, pretending there's lava on the floor. Don't miss the thing. And then the kids are getting really amped up in play. And then somebody puts too much sympathetic in and they elbow their brother. And then someone's crying and they're fighting. The parent comes in and was like, "You're just playing. Why are you fighting?" Because they were in play, but they dipped into sympathetic. Mm-hmm. Or adults are having a game night and you're competitive and all of a sudden you're like, "You cheated," and you're like, "You blah, 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 blah," and now we're in a fight and we're like, we were literally playing Monopoly. Now it's ruined.
So true.
Common that we dip into that state. But those 3 states of regulation, if we can learn how to experience them and deepen our practice of each of them, it allows us to navigate lots of life with ease. And lastly, I just want to say play is a bonding state. So is stillness. But play is an incredibly important bonding state. So if I'm working with couples who have friction, which is a joke because every couple has friction, and they're coming and they're wanting to like amplify their relationship, they're really challenged, a lot of time we want to just focus on the problem. But if you aren't focusing on the bonding and just focusing on the problem, you won't have the relative safety in the relationship to resolve it. Same goes if you run a company. We need to bring in these states. Like in my company, I really resource us bringing in these other states in our nervous system because it optimizes our ability to work together, our ability to care about one another, our ability to be in high creativity. So for anyone in a relationship or if you have kids, play is really important. And it might be over an activity. Like if I'm working with couples that are having struggles, might be, can you pick a new activity that you two can do together and see if you can both, in an external thing that's not just the two of them, can really help to create connectivity. So play is it's like exercise for a relationship.
Love it. Where does the athlete's zone, like an Olympian, like where does that fall into?
Great question.
Because so I want to access that. I want to be in that. Yeah.
So it's really nuanced. I work with a lot of Olympians and professional athletes, and what the goal is in peak performance is that we're in a peak state of flow. When you said that to me earlier about how it felt with me talking, that's just being in flow. Like I don't know what's happening and I don't even know what I'm saying. It just like comes out. And if you practice enough in anything you do, then you reach that peak state of regulation.
If you're regulated, then it comes through you rather than us efforting and thinking about.
Exactly. And so, our mind and our body are such powerful machines. And if we can really harness their power and be in the driver's seat of them and get ourselves into a very high state of ventral. A lot of times when I work with athletes, we'll first get into a place of stillness before, because it really helps people to anchor into their body. And then from that place, what we want to do is be in regulation, and we're bringing in a high amount of sympathetic energy, mobilization. And if you have enough control of your nervous system, you can bring in more and more sympathetic energy without going into dysregulation. I love lifting weights. And so part of that is you build your capacity to be able to be in that regulated state and then resource as much energy reserves as possible if you're on a day where you're like pushing to get to higher weight. That's how you do it. And a lot of people who haven't built the capacity to be in high ventral yet in their nervous system, when they try to bring in that sympathetic energy, they get dysregulated. Like I hear about people going to HIIT classes, for example, and then they clients, and then they end and I feel kind of anxious after, or then I crash. And that means that they haven't harnessed enough of their ventral vagal complex to keep the steering wheel. It's like if you were driving the difference between driving like a minivan would be like, I'm going 20 miles an hour down the road. I'm at like a low level ventral. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of easy to, it's like I'm in the middle of Kansas on a flat road in a minivan. Probably pretty easy to drive versus I'm doing F1 driving. Yeah. Really different things. And so the way that you become an F1 driver is that you practice, and you're able to really contain and hold the vehicle. And the same goes for our nervous system.
Amazing. Okay, so that's the 3 states of regulation. What are the steps to get to this? Like, what are the best practices to get more into ventral vagal and to have more agency over your nervous system? Like, are we diving into somatic healing?
Yes.
How do we get there?
Yeah. Well, the nervous system is subcortical, and that simply means it's below the cortical thinking brain. Of course, it's connected to the brainstem where the threat detector lives. That has the word brain in it, but that's below the thinking brain. And that means that our nervous system doesn't speak a verbal language. The language of the nervous system is somatics, which is the felt sense. So it understands movement, it understands bilateral stimulation, it understands vibration, it understands sound, it understands the difference or the manipulation of muscle tissue. So if we are able to let go of constricted muscle tissue and fascia, all of these sorts of things are what the nervous system hears and understands. And when you speak to it in those ways, it responds always. And that's really important for people to know, that this idea that you have to, I actually heard someone the other day say, anxiety runs in my family, like it's eye color. Anxiety does not run in anyone's family. Now, trauma may be experienced in generations, and the result of that is people are trapped in dysregulation, which means their sympathetic nervous system. But that is not a genetic code or a genetic experience. And certainly there used to be a thought, and people, lay people tend to still think that that's true. It is not true. And when we can actually speak the language of our nervous system, it responds in immediacy. Now, it's not going to momentarily let me be in full regulation if it has kept me dysregulated for the predominant amount of my life, because it doesn't think I'm safe. So it's like if I told someone one time, hey, you're safe to relax, and their whole life they haven't been safe to relax, it would be a really bad idea to listen to me after one time, right? You need evidence or data. And our nervous systems are data collectors. So they need disconfirming experiences or consistent data points that show, not tell it, that we are safe to be in this present moment. And those are the neural exercises we talked about last episode. A lot of times what people tend to do is they'll ask me, like, what do I do when I'm having a panic attack? What do I do when I'm feeling really depressed? And that's kind of like saying, expecting you to, if you're a firefighter, you've never had any fire training, you read like one book on it, and then you're supposed to go into a burning building and somehow get everybody out and know exactly what to do. You just won't know what to do. So it's the consistent practicing on a daily basis that reshapes our nervous systems. And so consistency is key, and regulating not just when we're in high distress. We want to regulate when we're actually having, lower experiences of distress. And again, there's lots of ways we can regulate. Chanting is a way to regulate. Singing, dancing is a way to regulate your nervous system. Swaying, literally swaying back and forth with your hand on your chest. This is very innate in humans. If you have the ability to empathize, when a child is crying, a baby, the impulse is to go get them, to pick them up. And guess where so if a child's crying, they're in their sympathetic nervous system. And what do? We put them on our chest. Guess what we then do? You know this as a mother. You then tap them on their back. You're literally tapping them on their sympathetic nervous system. That's where it lives. That's the general architecture. And I'm connecting them to my regulated sympathetic nervous system. And then I'll usually start swaying, bilateral stimulation, and then I might hum or sing to them. So you're already an expert in this work. We just have to remember how to come back into it. And within a few minutes, their nervous system regulates with ours. And I do this, what I'm doing right now, with myself. So imagine you are that child, because in a moment we're going to talk about parts, but these are parts of us that are in distress. So those are some simple ways to regulate. We can use our breathing to regulate. It's a direct route to regulating the nervous system. Not all breathing is the same. So if you are in your sympathetic nervous system, holotropic breathing or kundalini breathing is not what you want to do unless you have a very strong nervous system that can come out of dysregulation on its own. So if you go to a breathwork class and you end feeling extremely regulated, very clear, that means that your nervous system has the strength to go into dysregulation and bring itself out. A lot of people don't yet have that strength in the nervous system. So what they do is they leave a class like that and they either feel anxious or they're in dorsal and they think they're regulated. So they feel slightly out of it, just like a little like, oh, I feel a little fuzzy, but this is good, right? No, you just actually got more dysregulated. You went further into shutdown. So it's really important that when we're in our sympathetic nervous system, if you started to do rapid breathing like this, you're essentially telling your nervous system, yeah, there is a lion. I know you think there's a lion. The lion's closer than you think, which amps up the sympathetic. So instead, we want to do shorter inhalations, longer exhalations. Simple breathing cycle you can do is inhaling for 4 seconds, hold for 7, and exhale like you're blowing out a candle for 8. The constricting of the air on the way out is very important. Another thing, in any state that we're in, when we're dysregulated, our lungs constrict. So that means that we're not having full breath and full exhalation. So a simple thing you can do to let your lungs know, hey, we're actually safe, because all of this is speaking the language of the nervous system, is taking in reflexive inhale and then exhaling through your mouth until there's absolutely no air left, meaning the only option is to take another breath in. And it's going to be pushing air out farther than you think. Most of us hold breath and we hold a little bit of air in our lungs. And yeah, try it and keep going. And just notice the point where you're like, I think I'm ready to take a breath in, and push beyond that point. And for everyone listening, try this out. What we want to do I know it's a lot, emptying the fullness of our lung and push until there's no air, and then let yourself breathe in. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. That's what we want to do. So what you're doing is, in the full emptying of your lungs, you're allowing them then to expand further. So it's almost like if you were to massage something gently, that's what we're doing. Instead of like lungs expand, trying to push our lungs to expand, they're going to constrict more. And in that, because everything has all of our organs have nerve endings around them. Thousands of nerve endings. They're like tentacles. And when we're able to do the things I'm talking about right now, which is talking to our organs and the nerve endings are listening. They're like, oh, the lungs are relaxing. That means we're safe. And so 80% of information goes from our body to our brain. So if we can get the nerve endings to go from constricting to relaxing, it communicates that the coast is clear and we feel better. And so these are just some ways. Just lastly about breathing. Dorsal, when we're shut down, we want to bring energy in. So a simple thing you can do is a 2-part rapid breath through your mouth. When you breathe through your mouth, it brings energy into the body. And we don't want to bring too much energy in, just a little bit, like waking the system up. So something as simple as like this. And then rest. It's like giving myself just a little bit of a shot of energy. If you bring too much in, you might go into your sympathetic system. And then we just rest and notice. And you can repeat that every minute or two until you feel a little bit more energized. So breathing is a great way to regulate. And the other thing I just want to name is, regulating needs to become a way of life. And I said this actually to a group program I was running yesterday. I had this plant in my house, this fiddle fig in my dining room, and my dining room didn't get a lot of sun. It doesn't get a lot of sun, which I don't really love about it, but I love fiddle figs. And I bought this plant 5 years ago, and I was like, it was a big one. I love them. And I'm one of those people that like talks to plants, and I'm like, because they can hear us.
They have a nervous system too.
Yes. So all of a sudden, this plant was losing its leaves, and I'm like, oh my God, I got really distressed. What am I doing wrong? I'm like watering it the right amount. Then I started researching everything you can do. I got like the organic plant food for it. I went to every like really nice nursery in Los Angeles, and it just kept dying and lost every leaf. And it's just this tree branch, these branches. And my friends would come over and like, Sarah, it's so ugly. You have to get rid of it. I'm like, it's alive. They told me it's alive still. I'm not getting rid of it. I had it in that dining room for 2 years. It was like alive-ish. Yeah. And I was trying everything. I was like, I can't give up on this plant. Part of me that probably comes from my own history of like, don't give up on something. And then one day I was like, okay, I did this, literally I did like a ceremony for this plant in my backyard. I was like, I'm so sorry that I did this to you. Yeah, I literally did. And then I left it there. I went away on vacation and I came back. So I did nothing to the plant. I came back 2 weeks later and the plant had 20 leaves on it. 20 leaves. And I have consistently done in 2.5 years. It's kind of weird to have a fiddle fig in your backyard. It's like strange in an indoor pot. But I've done nothing to that plant besides every once in a while I throw some water in it, and it is thriving. Now, my point in sharing this story is because we have to think about, what are we watering our plant with? And for many of us, we are the plant. We are consistently watering ourselves with vinegar. We are not giving ourselves what we need. A fiddle fig needs more direct light. I had a dark dining room. It is not going to be able to thrive there no matter how much I do to it. And the same goes for us. If I'm not giving myself the conditions necessary to thrive, I can go to therapy every day and I could do the regulating stuff, but I have to really look at, what am I fueling myself with? And I work from home and I live alone. Okay, so we need connection to be regulated. So I'm already combating something there. And I'm looking at a computer screen for maybe like 9 hours, 10 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
It's a lot. So in order for me to be regulated, I know that I'm going to have to intermittently throughout my day be doing lots of things to bring regulation into my system. I work out first thing in the morning, every single day. I also, when I wake up, I don't look at a phone. A phone has the entire world inside of it. Nervous systems evolve very slowly. Human evolution happens very slowly. And our nervous systems haven't evolved from the time when we lived in a village, and you and I lived in this village, and there was like 3 other villages we knew about, and we're like, oh, can you believe so-and-so from that village drowned in the river? Oh, that's so awful. And then someone else is sick in the other village. Oh, this is a lot. 2 people. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. News traveled very slowly.
And that was enough for our nervous systems to digest and metabolize and take in. Now, what do most people do? The first thing they do when they wake up is they look at their phone, and they think they're being empathic, and they must know everything in order to be a loving human being,
or to be safe. Like,
or
I
to
need to know,
yes.
so be safe. And it's
That's
actually
right.
the opposite. Yeah.
And what it does is you're literally fueling dysregulation in your nervous system. And because you're metabolizing it. What are you ingesting into your body and your nervous system? So I'm already starting my day in dysregulation. And then most of us are chronically fueling that. So we have to combat it. For me, one of the first things I do is I go in my backyard and I close my eyes and I imagine that I lost my sight, and I imagine I lost my hearing, because someone in this big city is experiencing that. And I take a few breaths thinking, what would life be like this? And then I imagine what it would be like to get my sight back, and I open my eyes. And a lot of times there's tears rolling down my eyes. Like, if you really look at the sunlight on a green plant from that place, oh my goodness, it's so incredible to be alive. Like the sound of birds saying hello to each other. Mm-hmm. If you couldn't hear that and then you could hear that. Oh, and then like the ability to feel the warmth of a coffee cup, and to smell it is so incredible. And that is an exercise of embodiment and regulating. You start the day. That takes me 60 seconds. And if we consider just some examples, throughout my day, I stop and feel the sun on my face, just in between calls, just for 5 minutes or 4 minutes or whatever you have. So I will shake energy out of my system. When I go on walks, I leave my phone, and I imagine that, because our prefrontal cortexes are so strong, I imagine I am a child, or sometimes I say an alien that just got this earth suit. What would it be like to get here? Nothing would have a name. Because we've associated everything with names, we stop experiencing them, like a tree or a flower. So if nothing has a name and I'm experiencing it for the first time, you're looking at it with wonder.
Like mailbox.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even in nature, you start to notice pattern recognition, like a tree trunk looks a lot like an elephant's trunk. That's so interesting. What does it feel like? And this is why one of the reasons why humans are so drawn to animals and children. Because like a baby, they're like, what is this alien thing? Hand, do you eat this thing? No, you don't eat it. It hurts if you do that. They're so present to the experience of life. If you go on a walk like that, it will regulate you. Wow. I go on a walk and I'm like, how many flowers can I smell? I might be the only one that smells this flower besides a bee. And it's free. And to smell a gardenia, oh my God, it's incredible. And what are most people doing? They're on their phone, multitasking while they're walking. They're not present at all. And so we think, I'm doing this thing to regulate. It won't regulate you if you're not present to what you're doing. So it's the intermittent sprinkling of regulating tools throughout our day that actually regulates your nervous system. And the more you do this, the more that your whole life becomes oriented in this way. I don't ever get out of my car without regulating. It's a rule I made for myself years ago. And so, I'm in my car a lot. So that means that I might just take a moment to feel my body. Oh, that's right, I have this body. Get out of this mind and feel this body. Can I feel my sit bones? A simple thing that regulates your nervous system is relaxing your perineum, so the muscles between your reproductive organs. Relaxing your perineum brings regulation to your nervous system. You can do that anywhere. You could do it in a board meeting. I could do it right now.
I don't really even know how. Okay, let me see.
And that requires, see if you can do that. Okay. Everyone listening. And if you notice, like, I can't even connect to that part of my body, well, this just shows us, there's likely a time I needed to leave my body. And so we want to not, like beat ourselves up over that, but say, okay, well, can I work on feeling my hamstrings? Can I feel them? And what would it be like to ask them to let go a little bit? A lot of us are holding while we're being held. We do this with the universe a lot. I used to do this. My spiritual practice is really important. Like, I surrender, but really I was holding me while being held. Like, I sort of surrender to you, pseudo, but not really, because I'm going to control everything. And we do that with others, where we sort of let them hold us, but we hold ourselves while being held. And so showing our systems we can actually let down is key. And then this becomes a way of being. And the more that happens, the more we predominantly live life in regulation.
So beautiful. I totally agree. As you were talking, I was thinking of a family member that has like a fear of flying. Like it's a real phobia. And I'm always like, just breathe through a straw, or, because I don't have that fear. I grew up in aviation, and I just have a different perception of it. So that's like a really specific one I know a lot of people deal with. Yeah. How can someone start to shift their phobia?
Well, one of my mentors, Bessel van der Kolk, he says that exposure therapy makes people really good at dissociating. If it makes people do one thing, it makes them really good at dissociating. Exposure therapy would be keep getting on a plane without doing anything else. Just keep getting on a plane. Now, if my nervous system thinks that plane is going to kill me, it doesn't matter how many times I get on that plane. It is going to consistently bring me into regulation to the point where I just shut down and dissociate. I just leave my body. So we have to titrate the experience of exposing ourselves to something that which was once dangerous. If I try to, I'll go back to the airplane thing, but this is a common one that a lot of people experience. They want more intimacy in their relationship. And they're like, okay, in my individual therapy, I talk about that. And like, I want to, and I mean emotional intimacy, but it could be sexual intimacy. But I want, to have more closeness with my partner. And I want to be able to express this need I have. And in therapy, when I'm with my therapist, I can really feel all of it. And then you get in front of your partner and you're like, can't say it. You're like, just kind of shut down. Or you say it and it almost sounds robotic. Yeah. It sounded like eloquent when you're with your therapist. And now I sound like I'm 5. Yeah. And I'm like, just want you to see me. What does that look like? I don't know. Do it. And that's because I have to build my capacity for that kind of exposure. So in this example, because it's just one so many people struggle with, to be deeply known, a lot of times when I'm working with couples, it can start with writing to each other. Like, I write this thing, and then I'm going to give it to you, and we're not even going to talk about the thing. We're just going to share it. And I'll say, that really meant a lot what you wrote to me. But we're not going to go beyond that yet. Or a lot of people will say, we text each other these like really loving things, but then we can't really do that when we're together. So these are all incremental steps that we can take towards exposure to intimacy.
Is it like tolerable?
Tolerable steps.
Yeah.
And when I say a tolerable step, what I mean is it has 2 features to it. It doesn't feel good, and you can complete it. That's what we would want to do around the plane too, and I can give examples for that. And a lot of people are like, I'll start that company when it feels good. Like, that'll never happen. I'll start dating when I can feel like, everything feels more relaxed. It won't happen. And so because my nervous system doesn't think that thing is safe, I have to show it that thing is safe. You can't talk your way into that, or like tell people like bumps in the air, just like I heard a pilot say this once, it's just like being in the ocean in a wave. Yeah, but to somebody that thinks they're going to die, it doesn't really matter. Yeah. The same goes with exposure to anything like intimacy. So it doesn't feel good, so expect dysregulation, but I can complete the thing I'm trying to do. If you can't complete it, we have to make the steps smaller. And the other thing is, meaning when I say it doesn't feel good, it's important that it doesn't engulf you. So if I just get totally shut down and I go blank, that means it engulfed me. If I feel like I'm panicked and I lost the steering wheel of myself, that means it engulfed me. So we want smaller amounts of dysregulation. So less is more. And the more we do this, the more we gather data points. And eventually what happens is total intimacy and, holding our partner and looking at each other in the eyes, both with tears running down our faces, seeing each other's souls, becomes comfortable. And probably 5% of the population are comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
That's deep level of intimacy. But I do think it's the thing that all humans want. So with the plane, what I would start by doing is working with that person, and I would say, okay, bring to mind a moment that you previously were on a plane. Just bring it to mind and tell me the moment you noticed dysregulation in your body. And they're probably going to be like, okay, I feel it. Now, we're not going to go any further into that story. What I would then want to do with them is I'd want to locate the anxiety in their body. Where is it? Does it have a shape? Does it have a color? If it could say something to you, does it want to say anything? We would anchor in regulation, probably have them feel their feet on the ground or orient or notice something positive around them. And then I would ask them to be with that dysregulation for a little bit. Until it feels intolerable. The moment that it feels like, okay, that's enough, then what we're going to do is discharge that from your body. And our systems can naturally discharge it. We also have to teach them how to do that again. So it might be, okay, now let's engage in some swaying together. And that has the ability to discharge the energy from our system when we do that. So this is called pendulation of our nervous system. I feel into a small amount, I allow it to be in my system, and then I get rid of it. And what we're teaching our nervous system is two things: that planes are not as dangerous as you think, and also that I can do something with the dysregulation around them. So I'd want to do that again and again. I'm not even on a plane. This is much before I ever get on a plane. And then what I would want to do is walk through ways in which our nervous systems can have choice in the experience of getting on a plane. Our nervous systems actually need three things to be regulated. One of my friends, Deb Dana, calls them the 3 C's. We need context, an understanding of what's occurring, choice. We do not like being cornered, and connection. We cannot thrive without human connection with another human being. And we all know the context thing. Like, you've gotten a text and someone's like, hey, we need to talk. Are you available at 4? No punctuation. It's like, what do they want?
No context.
Yeah. Do you want to kill me? Or you do not want to be in my life anymore after 20 years? Like, and they're like, no, I wanted to know if you said you want not eat carbs for dinner. So should I not get quinoa? It's like something benign, but it feels, because I don't have context, it feels intense. So we need context and choice. So the more that, and for people that are experiencing high levels of dysregulation, it's usually because I don't feel I have a sense of choice. And it's reminding me of the out of control of trauma I felt in the past. It's not actually about the plane, unless you have trauma of being in a plane crash or something traumatic happening on a plane. If that has not occurred for you, it's just like OCD, then this means that my system is choosing something outside of me to be the danger, instead of focusing on or locating the overwhelm of danger that was rooted in a trauma in the past. So the more that we simultaneously also resolve our traumas in the past and do the other things I just named, the more that fear begins to dissipate.
And if you did have a traumatic plane experience, then it's just disconfirming experiences coupled with.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about our systems, with whatever trauma that we experienced, if it's stuck and stored in our bodies, it's locked in time. And our systems think that it is still happening right now, which is why then, this is the reason why most people are dysregulated in our adult lives. If you are in safety and you're dysregulated, that's called perceived danger. There's not actually real danger here. And that means that the past is being superimposed on the present, and you have unresolved things or trauma in the past that need to be completed. So the incredible thing is, our psyche and our bodies are waiting to do the thing that they couldn't do then, to escape and to make it out and to survive. If I work with people in, let's say they were in a car crash and the car came on their left side, it's very often that their body, their postural stance will be with their heads tilted slightly away from the left. Wow. Their system, that could be from 20 years ago. It's stuck in that place of bracing. And if what we do is we go back first we build capacity in our nervous system. That's why nervous system regulation is the most important. And I think of this like the first step is we have to become the warrior for ourselves. And that means that you have to have enough regulation in your nervous system that you can tolerate going back to experiences that were once overwhelming. And they now don't overwhelm you. So, and this is why you have to work with a trauma expert, because even if you go to a talk therapist who this is not their expertise, they'll sometimes have you talk about stuff and then you end up being super dysregulated and that flooded, and that's called re-traumatization. That's not helpful. We build our capacity as this warrior, and then we literally travel back in time. And time is not linear. We're traveling it all the time when we're triggered in the past or perceiving a future that's dangerous. And we travel back and we meet these parts of us. Well, it's called state-dependent memory, so feeling what they felt, but now I'm not in the terror that they felt or the overwhelm that they felt. And I am literally taking that part of me and I am rescuing them from what they experienced and doing for them what wasn't done. So if I'm working with someone who's in a car accident, their physiology will go back. Literally, they'll feel what they felt at the time of the accident, and their organisms, so our bodies, will begin to do. It's very spiritual work. Will begin to do what they couldn't do. Like they'll say, "Whoa, I'm noticing my hands feel like they're grabbing the steering wheel and they're moving it." Like they're moving, meaning to move out of the way from the car that's coming. And once that's completed and finished, and they'll be out of breath, and it's a very big experience to occur, it gets marked and imprinted in our psyche as complete, meaning I was able to get away. And then no longer are they afraid to drive on highways. No longer are they having this thing where their postural stance is to the right. And we do this around anything from our childhood, the little parts of ourselves that feel inadequate in the world, or like they don't belong or they're not safe to be seen. We can rescue these parts of us and bring them into presence with us. And when that happens, the past becomes the past, and our life opens up for us in miraculous ways.
So wild. So I think this is, you kind of made a natural segue into parts work. I think.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
It's just directly from IFS and Richard Schwartz.
Yeah, his work is so prolific in parts work. But parts work has been being done for a very long time.
Okay.
And yeah, I think of this like with the great teachers like Jesus, Buddha, Gandhi, Muhammad. It's like everyone's doing, then spiritual teachers now are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So with mental health, this has been happening for a really long time. And
everybody puts their own twist on it.
Yeah, exactly. IFS is a great one. And people who have done, like, what is IFS? But I've done inner child work. They're really interchangeable. I approach parts work from a somatic lens. And my belief is that you can't successfully do parts work without incorporating nervous system work. Now, the reason being is because each part of us has their own vagal tone or shape of their nervous system. So just to give an understanding for anyone who's new to parts work of what this actually is, when we're born, if we didn't have any trauma when we were in our mother's womb, and a lot of us did because our mothers weren't regulated and that their nervous system affects you. But we come into this world as one whole being, and I am one solid self. Now, as we go through life, none of us go through life unscathed by trauma. And so what happens is when I was, maybe 6 years old, you had a caregiver, a parent who got sick. They got cancer. And they were in the hospital for a really long time. And the other adults, they didn't realize that you actually need to help a 6-year-old to process that. So nobody helped them. They loved them, but they didn't help them. So that 6-year-old becomes overwhelmed and fragmented off from the whole. There's a rope connecting them. So it's still, this isn't like DID or dissociative identity disorder where we have totally different personalities and selves. They're still connected to us via a rope, but they're trapped in that experience of being 6. They're trapped there. Then I have an experience where, the first relationship you were in, the person betrayed you. And so that part, and I didn't have caregivers who helped me process that, that part is trapped at 16, feeling like they're worthless or not enough. Then maybe I experienced bullying along the way, and no one helped me process that. That part at 13 is trapped and stuck. So what occurs is we have all these trapped parts. They're trapped in time. Now, we have this threat detector, neuroception. That's always, as I said, looking out into the world to see if we're safe. Looks to the database to decide. So let's say that I let's give an example. Let's say in my daily life, I'm going to, I don't know, a work event. There's lots of people who are maybe at the same success level as me or more. And so what happens is the threat detector says, okay, so what information do we have on this? There's people that are further along in their work than you, so they've done more than you, or people at your level. A lot of these people also know each other. And maybe I don't know a lot of people. So it looks to the database. And it looks to perhaps that 13-year-old experience of being bullied. I was in school, and it was a group of people who all knew each other, and maybe they were in the AP class, so like high achievers, so just mimicking, but they were all doing better than I was because I was having a lot of anxiety at home and I couldn't fully focus. And so they bullied me and made me feel like I was stupid or less than or not smart, and I was othered. And so what I did then was become very small. I tried to disappear and become invisible. Okay, so you're at this event. I'm not 13. And these people are really nice. But to the threat detector, there's enough of a match that it reminds me of being 13. And in that millisecond, I travel time, and I am no longer my adult woman self. I am a 13-year-old girl. And I am feeling the same affect she felt then, exactly the same. It's fascinating. The vagal tone, so the shape of my nervous system, will literally shift to what it was at her age. You will literally have the thoughts you had then. You'll even notice, you can tell when I'm working with people and myself, when like a teenage part is present. Like if I have like a protective teenage part that could be judgy. She sounds so different than me.
She says rad.
Yeah,
and sick.
That's so wicked cool because I grew up in New Hampshire. Like I haven't said wicked in 20 years. Young parts talk really different. Simple language. I don't matter. I'm not important. Nobody likes me. I'm different. And we start to project onto those people what we experienced in the past. And then we do things that later we say, why did I do or say that? What's wrong with me? It wasn't you. It was your 13-year-old self.
Wow.
And if you look out into the world and you start, your people's physiological experience will change. Their faces will look different. And if you think about people are experts in their partners because you're with them all the time, you can tell what part they're in. Like, whoa, they're not that grown man right now. They seem like a frustrated 8-year-old because they are a frustrated 8-year-old. And so most people have no idea that this is happening. And then these young parts, if these young parts don't have us, what they're going to do is they're going to do whatever they need to do, whatever they did back then to survive is what they're going to do now. And it's not actually them doing it, it's our nervous systems. Our nervous systems are their best friend. If we don't become the protector of our parts, our nervous system does in the form of self-protection, like fawning, for example. Like I just people please. I just become what everyone else wants me to become, and I'm agreeable to whatever you say. That's a part. That's not our adult selves. So the work here is we have to become, when I said the warrior, we have to become the parent to these parts that they never got. And even if you had loving parents, they couldn't get everything right. And our job is to make up for that and become what we needed. Now, a competent protector has two features to it. They're ferociously protective and they're incredibly attuned. They're both things. If we look at nature, like a lioness, she is both things. She is so soft and loving to her cubs, and they can like bite her tail, and she's like, that's kind of annoying, but it's okay, and she'll lick them, and she's so sweet. But if a hyena comes over anywhere near the cubs, all of a sudden that sweet lady is gone. I like to project humanness onto animals and call her a lady because I love animals. And that's gone. And now she will do everything in her power. Fierce. She will rip their heads off. She will do whatever it takes. And the thing about this is the cubs aren't afraid of her. They feel so safe because they know she can turn on that superpower. Now, a lot of people may have had like a loving mom, but she couldn't protect them. Or a loving dad that couldn't protect. A lot of people had dads who were in the protection zone, but they had no ability to actually deeply empathize. And this isn't because men or women can do one or the other more, it's because how we're conditioned.
Yeah.
And a competent protector has both. So our job, if we actually want to get unstuck in our lives and heal the past, you have to do parts work. It is just like nervous system work. It is absolutely imperative to do this. Otherwise, what occurs, just some examples here, is that in our romantic relationships, this is where your young parts show up more than anywhere else.
I was going to go there, but here we go. This is
why I have a lot of friends who are like, I don't know, my career is like so easier to do, so much easier. I feel like myself with my girlfriends. I feel like myself. And then you get into a relationship and you're like, what happened to myself? Who am I?
Yeah.
And that's because of how the threat detector works. It looks for similarities. So if you're in a romantic relationship, specifically if you get past the first part and now I'm attaching, real attachment is occurring. So at first, this is why at first it's like, this is so great and so easy. And then now that we're like getting closer and closer, I'm actually bonding with you. My threat detector says, okay, so what intel do I have on this? You're my most important person now. You're becoming like family. You're the person I go to for love the most, for support, for attunement, for connection, for belonging. Let's look to the database. And it's going to look to your earliest childhood experiences because that was the blueprint for relationship. And so whatever you experienced back then is what's going to be projected onto your partner. So here's a simple example. Let's say comes from my own life. I experienced pretty extreme neglect and had to do my own school projects, teach myself to read, like it was just me. So I got to the place and with my, and of course, certainly with my current partner, but with my ex-husband when I was doing this work, and I was like, okay, I actually have needs now. And I think I'm going to try to communicate that I want you to listen to this thing that I just did and be engaged in what I'm saying. This is an area of struggle for him. So, but even if he was really trying in that moment, if I haven't done the work with my younger self and reparenting them, then it's literally like there's a third grader with her diorama of the cheetah. Do you remember doing dioramas in shoeboxes?
My favorite thing to do. I still want to do
I
that.
loved them. We should do that. And then it's like a third grader bringing it to him with all the past experience of no one seeing her, like all that pain, and bravely just wanting somebody to be like, wow, look at that. That's so amazing you did that. Now, if I haven't parented her, then she's the one showing up asking my partner not to be a partner to the woman I am, but to be a father to this little girl. And we don't want that in our relationships. And the other thing, by the way, is the young parts are looking for a perfect parent. And no partner is going to be a perfect parent. They're going to get it wrong. Now, if we haven't done this work, what's going to happen is the third grader shows up, and then if he looked down at his phone, or he didn't ask just the right amount of questions, or he didn't seem like exuberant enough, then the young part, the threat detector would be like, this is really dangerous. This is just like the neglect in the past. And in a millisecond, it would shut me down into my dorsal vagal complex. I would feel the neglect, the like deep pain of not being seen, and then it would fortify. Like, I will never share with you again. I will never let you close. And I am literally that third grader feeling the pain that she felt at that numeric age. And then what happens is, as I'm doing that, that's going to trigger for my partner, because his threat detector is looking, maybe in his childhood, he never was enough. No matter how hard he tried, the message was like, you could have done better. You could have done better. And so that triggers a little boy in him. So now he's in his 8-year-old self, and what he's doing to protect himself is getting defensive. And I am the third grader feeling this deep pain of shutdown, and he's getting defensive. And now we have two little kids trying to resolve conflict. And so our parts are showing up all over the place. And if anyone's listening and you find that no matter what your partner does, it's never enough, like they do something, but you can't really take it in, and we focus on what isn't enough, or there's no amount of time together that makes you feel like you can trust them because you had a parent who abandoned you. And even though you can trust them after 10 years, 5 years, even a year, you still feel this. That's a clue that the young parts need you. And when I call this work internal co-regulation. So essentially what we're doing is we have to know what it feels like to be in our adult selves. And you have to work the muscle of this. A simple thing that I have people do is recall one moment where you felt capable and able. It could have been a moment where your child was afraid and you noticed you weren't afraid. The impulse was to protect them. I say a lot that the job of our adult selves is to not be scared of their scared, of the young part scared.
That's so good.
And it would be like if a little kid was like, I for sure know there's a monster in the closet. It's so scary. Oh my God, I'm so scared. And the parent's like, you think so? Oh my gosh. And then the kid's like, I need you to not be scared of my scared. And here's the issue with some people that try parts work. If you just do IFS without doing nervous system work, your parts know when you say like, okay, 6-year-old part, let me comfort you, but you're actually freaked out. They know. Children know that too. They're like, I'm going to be, yeah, there's no monster in the closet. But the kid's like, you seem freaked out though. And then it can't.
Same with doctors, by the way.
Yes.
It's like it's proven if you go in
Yes.
and get and your doctor has a strong belief in the efficacy of a treatment,
Yes.
or a prognosis is more positive in their mind, and they're not super jaded, like the outcomes of the patient are so much better. If the
Yes.
poor doctor has seen it over and over and over, what the treatment hasn't really worked that well,
Yeah.
but it's the only option, and this is what I'm going to do. We pick up on that energy, and the prognosis gets dismal.
Yes, and I find that in the work that I do, the rate that people get results that I'm working with is very fast. And one of the reasons is because I think I'm taking the most important research and modalities and bringing them in one place. The other thing is every fiber of my being believes wholly and fully in their healing. Yes. There isn't a part of me that doesn't believe that. And I let them know that, but I let them feel that from me consistently. And it is the truth. I know that it's going to happen, and I know that it's possible. And then it does.
And the outcomes,
Yeah.
you perpetuate these positive
Yes.
outcomes.
And when that happens, success is wild amounts of success that people have. So with our parts, we have to not be afraid of our parts. This is why people struggle to have success in doing parts work, because they don't have this adult self yet. So thinking of one moment where you either felt capable or able, that you were able to protect another, or even thinking of a cause that makes you want to mobilize and do something, like if global warming is important to you, or if the foster system, care system, or school system, whatever. And another thing you can do is place yourself in nature, or think of a spiritual moment that you've had in your life, like a really top ventral moment, and bring it to life in your body. When you can change your physiology, so I bring it to life using sensations, feelings, thoughts. I visualize what it was like. So I actually put myself there. And I call this marinating in the experience. We do this when we're triggered. All I have to do is say someone's boyfriend's name from high school, and all of a sudden, or like smell the cologne that people wore. And remember all those like horrible, toxic things that people wore in high school? Yes. Anyway, you smell that, and all of a sudden you're back. So we can do that for positive. And if I can bring this to life again and again, what happens is my physiology now has a neural pathway to bring my adult self online quickly. So I have people do this, and it's regulating. So doing this every day, just one or two of these experiences you've had. You can also use things like nature. I use sequoia trees a lot in my work. But imagining a sequoia tree in front of you and letting its mirror neurons affect you. You are a sequoia tree. Feel the steadiness in that. Feel the groundedness of roots below you. Feel your body growing in size. Even imagining my body is 100 feet. Noticing your postural stance change. So allowing your posture to change and come into a state of regulation. We practice this enough, we now have our adult self. Then what we have to do is get to know our parts. And there are two really big categories of parts. We have vulnerable parts and protectors. Usually we have a handful of vulnerable parts, often even just a couple of the primary ones. And then we have a couple or a handful of protectors. The vulnerable parts are the parts of us who experienced the trauma without having the protection, the exposure. Now, our systems are so incredible that if our caregivers, even if they loved us, if they weren't, and by the way, not just in childhood, this happens later, but a lot of it's developed in childhood. If our caregivers couldn't do what we needed, our system is so smart, it develops internal protectors. And their job is to ensure that that little one never, ever, ever experiences the pain that they felt in the past. So let's say I have this little one inside of me that was neglected or abused or abandoned. Some really primal needs not being met. I might develop a protector whose job is to deflect connection. So this is an avoidant part. So although I deeply desire, myself, deeply desires connection, the protector says, if I have to choose between you having that or keeping this little one safe, I choose keeping them safe because I love them so much. And a lot of people think avoidant people don't care. That could be further from the truth. They care so much. They want connection so much, but their protector is very strong and will ghost you. When you try to, you're getting closer in intimacy, they'll break up with you out of nowhere. You're married to someone who's avoidant, and they blow up and make you scared, like you're trying to have intimacy, and they'll do things to deflect you so that you get away from them. That's a protector. Others of us have protectors. Like, let's say I had a part that was made to feel as they were was not enough. The only way that they were valuable is if they achieved. So we developed this achiever part. And their job is to ensure that we are the most special as we possibly can be, that we do as much as we possibly can. Because if we're just a human, then we will not be loved. Because as we are is not enough. And so for these people, it's never enough. I have this part. This part will set the bar. You get to the bar, you enjoy it for 5 seconds, and you raise the bar.
Yes.
Maybe not even 5 seconds. And then you set the bar, and then you raise the bar. You set the bar, and that part will never be done. And it will tell you a story that, like, well, when you get to this place, then you'll have done it. It won't ever be enough. And for those of us that have that part, they will deflect us from being able to actually feel like, wow, look at this. Like, look what just happened. Look at the people being served. And we'll be on a constant experience of it's never enough, it's never enough.
Don't enjoy it, because then you're going to stop
exactly
doing, and you will only be safe if you are doing and achieving.
Yes, because stopping, that's a protective part, means I have to be with what is. For me, for this little tiny part, my home was so dangerous, so this protector learned to always do, because then I didn't have to be in my house. So I joined every club, did every possible thing, so adaptive that I learned this in literally elementary school to do. And I would just ride my bike and just do all the things, get love from teachers, and how smart. And so my parts don't know that resting now means, like, I could just go hang out in a pool, like in my backyard, or I could, like, go on a vacation. I could just go, like, lay down. But to my parts, that would mean having to be in that house again. And they don't want to be in that house again. And so the only way, like, this work, there's nothing more incredible, more spiritual I've ever done in my life than come back and rescue those parts of myself. It makes me so emotional. It's so beautiful. Yeah. You know, we have these parts that are trapped in these moments in time. Everybody does. These little boys and little girls and little kids that just were made to feel like they weren't enough, or they're scared. And when we can do this work, it's literally like we're traveling, we are traveling back to them, and we're getting down on their level and saying, hi, I know. Those are actually the most powerful words I think we can say to our parts. I know. Because more than anyone in the entire universe, we are the only ones who know exactly what it is like to be them. And the beautiful thing about these parts is, even if we've gone a lifetime of not knowing them and not helping them, they are never angry at us for waiting so long. They're just so glad that we are here and we are giving them what they didn't get. And just like a kid in distress, I want people to know this. They think, like, oh, it's going to take me 10 years. It happens very fast. Once you do this work, it's like a kid that's scared. Like, your kids at the playground and they fall and they're upset, and all they need is you to not be scared or they're scared, and feel them. Attunement is not what we say, it's what we feel. And in moments, they're like laughing again. And for our parts, if we do this enough with them, that's what occurs. And we literally imprint new childhood experiences internally, literally in the database. That becomes our new normal. And so now, and people say this a lot to me, how do I pick different? I keep picking the same kind of shitty partner over and over and over again. How do I change that? This work. And then literally what happens is you are no longer attracted to the people who replicate your childhood. You're attracted to people who replicate the childhood that you have given yourself. Wow. People that honor you and love you and cherish you and see the incredible beauty in you. And that's who you draw in every area of your life. So parts work is really important work to do for all of us.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's, in a sense, it's really just reparenting yourself.
Yes.
From this adult capacity. So as we have these practices to regulate, and then we can have the awareness to hone in on these wounded parts of ourselves, and then just be with them.
Yes.
And say, I know, because I do know, because it was me at some point.
That's right.
and they just then feel seen and safe.
Yes.
And you just like collapse time and rewire in that moment, and just continue to do that and then all of a sudden what you're magnetizing in your life shifts.
Yes, and what happens is our parts stop looking to other people to rescue them. You cannot have a successful relationship if your young parts are looking for your partner to rescue them. Mm-hmm. That's not a relationship. That's looking for them to be a parent, which is why then we find ourselves in trouble in relationship. And here's the beautiful thing, when I am the primary parent to my younger parts, and this is what I think of how relationships should function. I'm the primary parent, and I am asking my partner to be the secondary parent, and they should be asking me to do the same for them. And when this occurs, we all have these orphan parts. It's so beautiful that we get to together create this family system together. And when that happens, the bond in a relationship, if two people are willing, is so incredibly powerful. And the other thing I just want to name is this is state dependent. So it's not like you can just, I think about this 10-year-old part. Yeah, they experienced a lot of hard things, and like, they must be sad. So let me like say to them, I'm sorry, that was really hard. That won't do it. You have to feel adult you. And then we have to invite in their nervous system at the same time that our adult nervous system is here. This is where it becomes quite mystical. So I am literally feeling that younger self. When I'm working with people, I'll often say, which hand is your younger self in and which hand are you in? Which part's present? And they'll immediately know. Your hand will literally feel small. It's wild when you're in the state-dependent memory. And you might notice like, whoa, the younger part is gripping my hand and they don't want to let go. And so we'll say, okay, well, let's be with them and just show them you're not going anywhere. It's really quite wild. I'm using cognitive language to describe this, but it is all happening in our bodies. And we have to differentiate first between me and that part. If you think you are the part, you can't do the work. You have to see them as separate from you. They're not you. And a lot of times, like I named my part, my parts were looking for my partner to be the parent. Even early on in my therapy work, 15 years ago, I remember a part of me said to a therapist at the time, so I was speaking for the part. I was like, I have this little part that wants you to be its mom. Like, it's not interested in me being its mom. It's like, you, Sarah, like, you're going to be the mom? Like, you don't know how to do this. This is going to be, like, sad and awful. Can Mary Poppins be my mom? Like, not you. But the more we do this work, the beautiful thing is we become the person. It's so beautiful that our parts turn to. And they say, no, can you pick me up? And then we become home wherever we are. And the beautiful thing about that is when I'm home wherever I am to my parts, that any relationship I add in is additive. It's love from choice versus love from survival. And most humans, without realizing it, they're experiencing love from survival, not from choice.
For sure.
Yeah.
Is it possible to maintain a healthy relationship if only one person is aware of and doing this work? There can be dysfunctional relationships that are incredibly functional. You could stay on something for 50 years. And as long as both people maintain the role that they have in that relationship, it will work. Just a really brief understanding of family systems. Every family that you're born into is like a play. I think of it like a theatrical play. And you're born into that family, and then you get a part. You don't get to choose. It's given to you. You're the people pleaser. You have no needs. You're the golden child. You're the scapegoat, whatever. Now you go to date. The threat detector is deciding everything, but you have this play subconsciously. And I had a play that was like, okay, so my role is I have no needs. I caretake. I am the good girl, and I achieve. And so my role that I'm looking for someone to play is it's all about them. Whoever is the person that it's all about them. And they are helpless. And they need me, because then I know they're not going to leave if I can be codependent with them. And then I find somebody, we go on a date, and I find somebody who's not fully interested in me, who isn't able to actually see me, and has all the needs, and they find somebody who's a caretaker. And we're both like, I feel like I've known you forever. Oh my gosh, it's only been a month. But like, you're home to me. Soulmate.
That's what's happening. Now, as long as you keep that contract, it will work. You'll be suffering, but it will work. What happens when someone says, wait a minute, I don't think I like my role. I didn't choose this role. I actually think I have needs, and I want to take up space. I want to be able to get angry sometimes. I want to be able to be seen, actually. I want you to lean in more, whatever.
I don't want to be punished for past people's behavior.
Yes. all of
that
that.
you're bringing into this
yes,
relationship.
Exactly. So the thing here is you can't unsee what you see, and you can't unheal what you heal, and you can't unknow what you know. And so the more that we heal, the less we can tolerate these things anymore. We become so sensitive to energy. We could become so sensitive to everything because we're back in our animal selves, our truest self. And so what happens is if I try to stay in something where I have this new role and that person is like, absolutely not, I'm not going to do that with you, our bodies are going to start talking to us, and we start to get sick, and we start to notice that our toleration for it is becoming less and less. Our emotional suffering is becoming bigger and bigger because our system is saying, no, I can't. I also want to name that you only need someone who's willing. So there's this rocky road that can happen. Someone is always ahead. I've never worked with two people that are exactly at the same pace. I work with, and the best case scenario is someone's ahead and they're doing this work, and then they're like trying to invite their partner in, and their partner at first is like, I don't know about that. Why? Because their subconscious knows this is going to require you to go towards scary stuff.
Yeah.
So I call this the bumpy road that happens. And there'll be resistance that occurs and avoidance. Like I've been asking you to go to couples therapy for a while and you're just kind of avoiding it. And that stuff is it's very rare that someone's just like, great, I'm so excited. So we have this rocky road because we're literally, it's like for a screenwriter or a writer, your first draft is messy. So this process, this rocky road doesn't mean that the relationship isn't going to work. It absolutely can work, but both people have to be willing. And when both people are willing and they are actually doing, not just willing, but doing the work, taking steps towards it, you rewrite a new script. And it becomes the relationship that you both never had. But if you don't have someone that's willing, like I didn't have that in my marriage. He thought he wanted to be willing, but there's a difference between thinking you wanted to be willing and actually doing the work.
Correct.
And from the place of your home with yourself, an ending is a really different thing. An ending is not the abandonment of a child that a child experienced or the feeling like it's failure. From this place, there's a beautiful peace in it, and a deep bow and gratitude for the person of, this was exactly what I needed when I met you. Thank you for being this container. All the things that you were able to provide for me to be this container that I could do this work inside of. And I bow to you as we continue on in this journey, and thank you for being a part of my own becoming. It becomes that. Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful thing. Our culture just says that endings are negative. And if someone's married for 60 years, we don't even ask, how was that? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, congratulations.
Yeah. Right.
But endings can be a beautiful celebration of the work that we've done.
Ooh, I agree. Again, we could talk for hours.
Oh yeah, our time went to talk a lot.
We did. I mean, we went way over. There's so many more things. Just final snippet. And I know that this could go so deep, but maybe it's one anecdote of someone you've worked with. It's your own story of healing autoimmune. But like autoimmune cancer, a lot of, how does the nervous system play in? Because I feel like you can help with the regulation of the nervous system, the rewiring, the reparenting. Some of those conditions may resolve.
Yeah. I can share personally about this, but also there's now research on it, and research is published like 20 years after we already know, but it just takes a long time for research to get published, of the high correlation between trauma and nervous system dysregulation and chronic illness. The reason is because when we're dysregulated, all those nerve endings constrict around every organ, which means they're all functioning suboptimally. And it's like they're talking to each other and like, I can function on 50%, 40%. But over time, they begin to say, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm trying really hard. And we start to develop chronic illness. Because I was chronically dysregulated, I had ulcers all over my intestines. I had IBS, I had Crohn's disease, colitis, fibromyalgia, undiagnosed autoimmune diseases. I would have rashes all over my body. I was sick every few weeks of my life, just chronic all of the time. And I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars going into debt trying to heal. I did everything, every healing thing you could possibly imagine, and all the things that are supposed to work with the best naturopathic doctors, the best functional medicine doctors that I could find. I was putting every resource I had towards it. These things helped a little, but without having nervous system regulation, your system cannot actually long-term take in what you're trying to give it, because my baseline is that dysregulation. And so I say this all the time, the best medicine you can give your body is regulating your nervous system. Every time you do it, the energy that's going to survival goes back to its rightful place. And this highly intelligent system that knows how to heal itself begins to. So, and I don't suffer from any of those things anymore. And I had gut issues my entire life. Very common with abuse that you have gut issues my whole life. And they've resolved. And I'm not getting sick all the time. And I don't have fibromyalgia. And I have lots of energy in my body. And that's not because something special about me. It's because I learned to regulate my nervous system. So this is medicine. This is not just for our emotional landscape. It is the most important medicine you can give yourself, truly.
Oh, so beautiful and amazing. So on that note, what containers do you offer, programs, courses? Or tell them where to find her, a little bit about what you do.
I have, I think when this airs, I have a 10-week program called You Make Sense, where I spent the last 10 years creating this, bringing all of the really most important somatic modalities that have been backed by research into one place. And also it's a roadmap. There's an order that we have to do this work. If you do it out of order, it's not going to be as effective. So that's a 10-week program. You can find that on my website, sarahbaldwincoaching.com. You can also find it on my Instagram, and that handle is Sarah B Coaching.
Awesome. Well, I'm sitting here swaying because all of this helps me regulate my nervous system, but you're such a light. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and to be continued.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for having me again.
Thank you for listening to the Heal with Kelly podcast. Be sure to tune in every Thursday for more empowering wisdom and inspiring healing stories. And make sure you hit the follow button on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss that one episode that holds the answer you've been searching for. Oh, and if you found this episode inspiring, please rate, review, and share Heal with Kelly so that we can grow our audience and reach more people. We truly appreciate it. Lots of love.